I do. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you carving out time to be here. I know everyone has plenty going on in their lives and also in their work lives. And I would say probably more importantly than that, it's really exciting to me whenever you have some leaders, when you have some teams or organizations that are willing to step back and invest some time to work on the business. They're willing to take the time and think about their future and what are we going to have to do to create that future that we want. And before we jump in, I did have an ask for the group. Maybe even I'll call it a challenge for the group. Over the past 20 or so years, I've been part of a lot of webinars, and out of some of those webinars, I found some things that I was really excited about. I would identify these takeaways and some goals that I either wanted to apply to my own career path or maybe to my team or maybe even the organization. And what I found was, especially with webinars, it is easy right afterwards to start checking email or go to the next meeting, or maybe you have something you're working on, and then a day goes by. Next thing you know, a week goes by, month goes by, life happens, and all of a sudden you start to forget a little bit about that excitement. You start forgetting about the things that you wanted to apply to yourself or your team, and they start to become a distant past. So my challenge for you is, I would love to see each and every one of you find at least one takeaway, one goal, something you want to do different moving forward. Possibly even if you're feeling more ambitious, maybe even like three or four goals. And then my ask is write those down. Find an accountability partner. Maybe it's someone on your team. Maybe it's someone else in a leadership position in your organization. Maybe it's someone else in another department. Whoever it may be, write those takeaways and those goals down. Send them an email. And then not only just send them an email with those takeaways and goals, but schedule some checkpoints to check in. Make sure that you have someone holding you accountable for the things that you're excited about, the things that you want to do different. So it's not just a webinar for 60 minutes. It's something you take action on and make progress within your organization. And for some reason, if you do not have an accountability partner, I will share my email address at the end of today's session. And I'll be that person. Email me. Send me your goals, your takeaways, the things that you want to do. What I will do is put a reminder on my calendar, and then I'll send you some frequent check-ins of, hey, what's working, what's not working, how can I help you? I will be that accountability partner. Happy to do that. That's my promise to all of you. And as we jump in, I don't necessarily like starting off presentations talking about myself, but for this topic around vision and culture and strategic planning, it will be helpful to see some of the experiences and maybe even take a peek through the lens of how this was developed and the approach to the conversation. I grew up small town America, Parsons, Kansas, family owned business from very early stages of my life, clear up through college. And those experiences in a family owned business, they were really shaped my passion. They shaped a lot of the love that I have for the work that I get to do. I learned a lot about culture. I learned a lot about growth and profitability. I learned a lot about how to interact with people and build relationships and how those relationships play into the success of your business and how they can impact your communities. And that was just such a impactful period of my life that's really shaped who I am today. After that, I left and did go off to college. Candidly, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was not a CPA, although I've worked in an accounting firm for the last plus 20, around 20 years. I was not a CPA. I did not get an accounting degree. I've never done my own tax return, and I promise you, you do not want me doing any kind of audit work for you. But as I bounced around, I ended up landing in an accounting firm. And my plan was that I'll go there for a couple years, I'll build my resume, I will move on to something else. I ended up being there for nearly 15 years. My last 7 or 8 years, I worked directly with our CEO, I worked with our executive committee, I worked with several of our industry vertical leaders around strategic planning. How are we going to continue to grow in a healthy way for our people and for our clients and our communities? And some of that was around new geographic markets, maybe new service line development. Are there new skills or new people that we need to go try to recruit and bring into our team? And so a lot of that was around the strategy of how we're going to continue to make progress. And what I found during that journey was what I truly loved was watching other people be successful. I loved watching people do things that previously they did not think that they could do. And that was one of the most rewarding parts of the things that I got to work on. So I took a leap of faith in April of 2020. Went from a very large firm to a team of 6 people that primarily we worked with accounting firms across the US and across Canada. And the 3 buckets that we worked in was um, personal skill and leadership development. So we had programs that were for anywhere from entry level up to CEO. And then the other part of that was individual work with organizations of strategic planning, facilitating leadership retreats, figuring out who do we want to be 3 years from now and what are the steps we have to take to get there. And then there were some presentations and things we would do like for organizations, maybe facilitate a half day session or something along those lines. And that's how I came to Soren was I had the opportunity to work with the team. And I'd had this vision in the back of my mind for, gosh, at least I'd say 7 or 8 years of how could I take the lessons that I've learned, the organizations that I've worked with, and take these same principles outside of public accounting. And that's what brought me to Soren. That was part of my own personal vision of how can I help family-owned businesses? How can I help construction companies? How can I help nonprofits or healthcare? And so that is what brought me, and I've been here since April 1st of last year, and I've just really enjoyed that journey. And then that final picture, my wife and I and kids, we had the opportunity to go to Banff, and it was actually around facilitating a meeting for several organizations. And we did extend the stay and have a couple extra days, and we took a hike. And I remember taking this picture, and it's really been front and center in a lot of my presentations. It was just such a great reminder that our relationships, the people we meet, the work that we get to do, we don't have to do, the work we get to do will take us further than anything that our professions can do for us. It is such a wonderful journey. You may even hear me reference my kids or my wife throughout some of the presentations that I do. And the part of that journey, I had the opportunity to meet an author and a speaker that I thought very highly of. I'd used some of his content throughout my career journey, and that was John Gordon, Power Positive Teams. And I was very fortunate. I was able to get certified a few years ago. I had a chance to meet John Gordon, and part of that training was creating my own vision and mission statement. Like, who do I want to be? What's the kind of person I want to be? And why is that? What's my purpose behind it? So if I could summarize my own personal vision and mission, it's I'll share my story to help you write yours. I'll share my experiences to help you through your experiences. And my why is that I've had leaders, I've had people that invested in me without me even asking for help. I've had leaders that invested in me probably when I didn't even deserve it. So that's my why. I want to help do that for others. I want to help your organization. I want to help drive a positive culture. I want to help drive a positive impact within your business or your nonprofit that'll help make a difference with your people and within your communities. And that's a little bit of insight into today's session. The next 50 or so minutes, here is our roadmap. We'll start with the foundation. You have to have a starting point to build on, so that's where we will start. And then we'll get into 7 common reasons that I see strategic plans fail. I'll share some insight to those. Then we'll transition to the best practices. That's more of our action items. Remember, my challenge for you, at least 1 to 3 action items, goals you have, things you will do different moving forward. And then we'll wrap up with a conclusion, a couple final thoughts. We should have plenty of time, at least 5 to maybe 8 or 9 minutes at the end for questions. I have my chat box pulled up. Brady from our team is monitoring those throughout. She'll share those with me. I will get to as many questions as possible with the time allotted. I promise we will not go over our time allotment today. For some reason, if I do not get to those questions, I will get a list of those. I will follow up with you individually. I love the engagement. I love the interaction. So please feel free. Those will be anonymous. We're not going to like put your name or your organization name out there or anything like that. So love the questions. The only other heads up, I do have four polling questions that are sprinkled in throughout the session, and that's more of an opportunity for me to learn more about you, really guide some of my comments. There are no right or wrong answers. There are no trick questions, nothing like that. Those will be anonymous as well, but it's just a chance for me to see where you're at in your own journey and then really guide my comments throughout today's session. The foundations, here's our starting point. We have to have a starting point to build from. I'll start off with, I'll say the less exciting part, more the terminology. These four terms, you will likely hear me mention these throughout our discussion. That said, we will focus the majority of our time on bullet one and bullet four, the vision and the strategic plan piece. Our vision, that tells us where we are going. What does future success look like for us? The mission piece of it, that's our purpose. Why are we doing what we do? We spend a lot of time at our work. So why do we show up every day? We want to make an impact. What's our purpose? When our people feel a sense of purpose behind what they are doing, they'll be much more engaged. They'll be much more motivated. They'll be willing to invest their own discretionary time to help us achieve the vision and the mission. And then our cultural values. These are our guardrails. These are the expectations and standards for every team member that steps foot into your organization. It's in a way, it's our guardrails for success for the organization and our team members. These are expectations of everyone. They're non-negotiables. They are expected of everyone. And then the strategic plan piece. That is a chance to step back and think about here's our vision, here's where we're going, but here are the things we need to do over the next 12 to 18 months to get there. Who's doing what? What are our assignments? Who's accountable for what? What's our timelines? How are we going to create the vision that we want to achieve over a period of time? And then here is the business case. Why is this important? Stephen Covey, I don't know if you're familiar with the Stephen Covey quadrants, but quadrant one is urgent and important. I've lived in quadrant one many times. We have these things that pop up that need done daily or weekly, and we find ourselves in that kind of fire drill mode. Quadrant two, that is important work, but not urgent. That's the kind of work where we're stepping back, we're intentionally focusing on our team's future or our business's future or our organization's future. And what tends to happen is if it's not urgent, we'll get to it when we have time, and then that time rarely comes. Then we don't see the success that we want. The other part of the business case, change. I promise you, change will happen. Whether we like it or we don't, change is going to happen to our teams and our organizations. And we have to step back and ask the question of, do we want to be the type of team that is proactive? We have a vision. This is where we're going. Here are the things we're going to intentionally implement to drive our own future. Or are we going to step back and wait and see what happens, and then we react to the change? I'm not saying there is a right or wrong answer. I'm not saying you can't be successful in that reactionary mode. But what I do believe is when a team or an organization, when they're much more intentional about who do we want to be and how are we going to get there, they are going to see a heightened level of success. And then the strategic planning process. That is building that space or that time over a day, maybe it's 2 days, and really stepping back and having open and honest dialogue. We all need open and honest dialogue. We need to challenge status quo. That's our chance to take some self-reflection and say, yes, here's where we're at today. We're doing a lot of things really well, but we also have opportunities to improve. More importantly, this is our chance to step back and create our future. This is where we're at. Yes, we're doing well, but we know we have opportunities to get better. So that's that chance for that open and honest dialogue. What's working? How is our governance structure? How is our leadership structure? And when I look at those two areas around leadership and governance, it boils down to two things. One, are you effectively making important decisions? Are you doing that quickly? Not only are we making the important decisions, the other part of that, are we constantly moving our organization to higher ground? Are we focused on progress, not perfection? So in a sense, you look at it of each and every year, are we ending the year better than when we started? Are we climbing the mountain? Are we focused on progress? So that is how I view leadership and governance when we're looking at that strategic planning process. And excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting over the flu from a few weeks ago, still have a little bit of a cough. But for any leadership retreat or any strategic planning session that I facilitated over the past 6 years, I can typically point back to one, if not every one of these pillars. It falls back to the four pillars of a successful organization. And I have them listed as importance on the screen. Culture. Culture drives everything. Our people, they're the most important. Are we creating those rewarding career opportunities? Are we giving them the tools and things they need to succeed? Are they passionate? Do they see a better future within our organization? And then our clients, our customers, if you're a nonprofit, maybe it's our donors. So what's their experience? How do they view us? Are they our raving fans? Do they see us as a critical part of their success? And then that fourth pillar is the growth side. Are we growing in a healthy way that is good for our people and good for our clients or our customers or our donors? Are we doing that in a healthy way to reinvest in our organization and our people and build sustainable success within our organization? So now that we've covered the foundations, I've shared some insight into how I'm approaching today's session. Now is my opportunity to learn a little more about you. This first polling question, if we could pull that up, of does your organization have a vision and a strategic planning process? Keep in mind, no right or wrong answers. There's no trick questions. These are anonymous. We're not going to blast them out to everyone on the webinar. But does your organization have a vision and a strategic planning process? All right. So it looks like over 80%. That's great. That is awesome to hear. Appreciate that. And polling question number two ties right into that question. If yes, how would you rate the implementation and progress? Is it world class? Are we knocking it out of the park? Are we extremely happy with where we're at? That's a level 9 or 10. Are we making good progress? Is that level 7 or 8? Yeah, we're doing well, but we know we have some opportunities to improve, or minimal progress. Probably more of a level 5 or 6. We have a plan, we make some progress, but at the end of the year, we're not fully satisfied with what we're doing. Or if you don't have a plan, maybe it's not applicable today. All right. Looks like, okay, world class, 13%, good progress, 63% minimal for. All right. So it looks like a majority are making good progress. I love hearing that. As we get further in, I'd love to hear from like what's maybe holding you back. So when we think about questions and we think about the discussion, I would love to hear like what's working and what's not working as we go throughout some of the reasons that strategic plans fail and then some of the best practices. The last foundational point, this is more of a litmus test to really gauge where you're at. And these polling questions were very intentional leading into these questions. And so that first question from a litmus test standpoint, if I was to come visit you and your leadership team today, they had no idea what I was coming to talk to them about. And I was to ask you in the leadership team of, can you effectively tell me what success looks like 3 years from now? Can you tell me in detail? And not only can they describe it, is there alignment? Is there a clear understanding for where we are going as a leadership team? Can they answer that with a high level of confidence? And then we'll move to that second question. Not just our leadership team, but can every other person in that organization or in that team, can they accurately tell me what success looks like? Do they see that? Do they align with the leadership? And then the third part of that is when you look at your leadership team and you look at everyone else in the organization, do they show a level of excitement? Do they, when they hear you talk about success 2 or 3 years down the road, do they see a better future? Does it excite them? Do they want to be part of that journey? And this litmus test, if you can't answer this with a certain level of confidence, that's probably an indicator that you could go back and revisit your vision. Maybe put some TLC and spend some time on that, on recrafting that, communicating that within the leadership team and then everyone else in your organization. Let's shift gears. We're going to get into why strategic plans fail. I don't necessarily like that term fail. Maybe I should have renamed it to 7 strategic plan learning opportunities. But these are the 7 things that we will cover as far as what a lot of teams will face from a hurdle standpoint. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. The old Cheshire Cat. It's that idea that if we don't know where we're going, we can wander around and we'll eventually get there. And so, without that clear and compelling type vision, it's really easy to fall back in that trap of quadrant one, the busyness. Gosh, we got a lot going on right now. Things seem to be working pretty well. Let's just do what we did last year. Or the worst case scenario, if there is not a compelling vision, people are they have this uncertainty, and when uncertainty happens, what happens? They tend to focus on their own team or maybe their own progress. And what it can do is start to create silos within an organization. And with some uncertainty, sometimes with change, self-preservation starts to set in. So that those are some of the things you experience without a vision, and we don't know where we're going. It leads to maybe fear and uncertainty. The busyness trap. I'll raise my hand. I probably could have put my picture in instead of the guy that's in there. But I've fallen in this trap before, and I've seen a lot of other people fall in this trap. Unfortunately, we live in a world of busy. We live in this culture of busy. And sometimes busy is confused with what success looks like. It's the more meetings I have, the more clients I have, the more events that I have to go to, the more fundraisers, the more kids sporting events, the more kind of mindset. The gosh, I'm really busy right now. Sometimes that is confused with the importance of my role. That's not necessarily the case. And so sometimes when we get stuck in that fire drill mode, we tend to lack communication. We tend to focus on what's right in front of us, and we can't see down the road to really focus on that longer term progress. And it goes back to the Stephen Covey quadrants. If we're in quadrant one, we're not taking time to spend in quadrant two. It's the important but not urgent, and we're putting that on the back burner with that mindset of I will get to it when I have the time. Number three, the communication breakdown. Without communication, or I should say, without effective communication, what happens is people will start to make their own assumptions. Their minds start to wander. They start to make up and tell their own stories, and then they tell other people about that. The unfortunate part of that is those stories and those assumptions are not always 100% accurate. And the other thing, you can't just have like a big annual meeting with every team member and talk about your vision, talk about your plan, and talk about it one time a year and expect everyone to be invested or expect everyone to know where you're going and really truly understand that. It takes a high level of ongoing communication. And without that communication, it goes back to what I said on the previous slide. People start to make assumptions. They start feeling uncertainty. They start feeling fear. We're surrounded by doom and gloom. So that uncertainty leads to distrust. And so if we don't know where we're headed, we start to question that and we start to lose trust within the organization. The alignment gap. You may have the best vision statement, you may have the best mission statement, you may have the best cultural values in the planet, or you may have this wonderful strategic plan, you're excited about it. Maybe it's on your website, maybe it's written on the walls in your business, or you have your cultural values and they're written really, really well. But if our actions don't align with our words, there's going to be a high level of distrust. There was a great leader that I've had the chance to interact with over the past several years. His name is Joey Havens. He wrote a book called Leading with Significance, creating a people first magnetic culture. And I was very fortunate. I actually had the chance to interview him on a podcast, and he was sharing his journey of becoming the CEO in his organization. And he said he had started reaching out to several of the other owners, getting feedback, and it wasn't exactly what he wanted to hear. In fact, it was pretty constructive and pretty negative. And it was pretty hard to swallow hearing that kind of feedback. Fast forward, he had the opportunity to get in front of the whole ownership group and present his vision for what is the future of our firm. And what he did, I love what he did. I thought it was a fantastic idea. But he took this big glass fishbowl up on stage, had these fake fish where he wrote all the negative feedback. And then he called it his foolish culture, or the foolish culture. This is the way we've been living within our organization. And he pulled out the foolish cultural values and read what that means to the leadership group. And then he shared his vision for their wise culture, how we should be living, how we should be acting, and the things we should be saying within our organization. And his message to the ownership group was, As leaders, we are on display. We live in the glass fishbowl. Everybody is watching what we're doing. He said our strengths, our weaknesses, how we talk about each other, how we interact with clients, the things we say behind closed doors are all on display for everyone to watch. He said, more importantly, they're listening to what we say, but they're watching what we do. And if what we're doing doesn't align with what we're saying, we're going to have a hard time building this culture of trust within our teams and within our organization. The other piece, number five, the negativity spiral. I'll raise my hand on this one as well. A good friend of mine had the chance to interview him on a podcast, and he went through a pretty rough patch in his career path, and he sent me this article afterwards. I've got kind of a summary in that red box. And I don't know how they came up with these stats, but if they're even remotely close, we consistently lead more towards the negative, the things that are broken, the things that are not working. And the stats are we have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% are negative, 95% are repetitive. Again, I don't know how they landed at that, but if it's even remotely close, that is a struggle within ourselves, within our teams, within our cultures. And when we're constantly surrounded by doom and gloom, it's not just our natural thought process. Look at the media, pull up social media. We're constantly bombarded with negative messages. And I share that because creating a positive culture, creating a positive outlook with this idea that we can get better, the best is yet to come. It is truly a skill set and it takes a ton of intentionality. We've all experienced it where someone is constantly negative and it kind of sucks the life out of you. That holds you back from creating your vision and acting on your strategic plan. Number six, guilty of this one, taking on too much. I have made this mistake where I like change. I love leading through change, but I'm guilty of wanting to take on the world. It was good intent, bad results. When you take on too much, it tends to lead to overwhelm and minimal progress. You operate at a level 5 or 6, good intentions, you try to pick 7 or 8 things you want to do different this year, and then you get to the end of the year and you're upset because you didn't get to where you want to be. So I encourage organizations, when you look at your strategic plan piece of it, have a high level of focus on the things that you can do really well. Prioritize. Find things that you can do to operate at a level 8 or 9 and truly drive change within the organization. It builds a sense of success and a feeling of accomplishment. And then you can start to tackle the next thing. So narrow your focus when you're going through this strategic planning process. Number seven, lack of purpose. Whether we like it or not, as leaders, you have a high percentage of people within your organization that want to know they're making a difference. They want to know they're having an impact. They want to know that they're impacting the bigger picture. Maybe it's other team members, maybe it's their clients, maybe it's their communities. They want to have purpose in their work. And if they don't know uh, what they're doing each and every day and how that impacts the bigger picture, they're going to have a hard time finding purpose. They're going to be less engaged. And so they want purpose, desire purpose. It's human nature to want to know that you're making a difference. And then the last thing I will leave you with, and then we'll get to the best practices and another polling question, but the vision piece of it, they typically fall short when they're not specific enough. People don't understand it. They can't recite it. They don't know where we're going. Goes back to the questions I asked earlier. If they're not excited and they don't see a better future, they're going to have a hard time getting on board. If they're not communicated, they're never going to be invested into it. So it takes a high level of communication. Anytime that I felt like I was over communicating is probably about the time that it was starting to resonate with within an organization or team members. And then the last one, based on outdated systems and beliefs, a change killer or a strategic planning killer is the comment of this is the way we've always done it. I think you should celebrate past success, but don't let it control you. Just because we've been successful today doesn't mean we'll be successful in the future. The other comment, a little different but similar, is Heath, we tried that 3 years ago or 5 years ago, it didn't work. So sometimes the things that helped us be successful today are not necessarily what is going to help us be successful in the future. All right, polling question number 3. What is your greatest vision and strategic planning hurdle? I'll give you a few minutes to answer that one. We don't have a clear and compelling vision or plan. That's okay. Um, Lack of capacity. We don't have the people or the time to implement. Lack of accountability and commitment. We have a great plan. We have a great vision. Not everyone is fully invested in it, even at the leadership level. Maybe it's others in the organization, or the lack of effective communication. Or if you're not there yet, maybe it is not applicable. All right, not uncommon. The highest is lack of capacity. Second, actually tied, lack of capacity, lack of effective communication. Coming in third is a lack of accountability and commitment. All right, I appreciate the feedback. Through these 9 best practices, we should be able to address those hurdles. In fact, the two highest, we do have some time built in for that. Just as a reminder, my ask of you, my challenge for you, find at least one, maybe two or three things that you can take away from this, from a goal or a takeaway, and drive action within your team or your organization. I might even look for you to share your thoughts if we have time at the end of the session. Best practice number one, the Stephen Covey idea: begin with the end in mind. That's where you have to start. You have to see the vision before you create it. If you go back to how I started this session, is can you truly, can you and the leadership team, can others in your organization, can you tell me what success looks like 3 years from now? So I'm a fan of that idea. When you have a vision of this is who we want to be, then you can start working backwards on what are the things we need to do to get there. And that vision, going back to it, should be exciting. People should want to be part of it. That is contagious, and team members start to embrace it because they know where you're heading and they do see that better future. Number two, build your vision. Out of the 9 best practices that I'm going to talk about, this is likely my most favorite. This is not a short 30-minute discussion. This is more of a 2 or 3 or 4 hour discussion within your leadership team or those you decide to have part of this discussion. And so this goes back to the 4 pillars I mentioned: our culture, our people, our clients, customers, or donors, and then organizational growth. So keep those 4 pillars in mind as I walk you through this exercise. Start with your culture. What do you truly love? What are your strengths? What are the things that people truly love and appreciate about your culture? What are the things that you know are absolutely critical to your future success? Have that open and honest dialogue. Create a space where people feel comfortable talking about what they truly enjoy. And take notes, jot those down. And then do that for your culture. Then go to the people side, then go to the client side, and then go to the growth side. So, what do we truly love? And then what is absolutely necessary for our future success? The harder part for the open and honest dialogue. This is the part where you do not want to practice artificial harmony. That's acting like everything is perfect. Everything is not perfect. There's no perfect organization out there. This is the discussion to uncover hidden elephants, things that people may be thinking but not saying. What are the things that we know we need to get better at? Where do we see opportunities for improvement within our culture, within our people, within our clients and customers or donors, and then organizational growth? Have a very open conversation about what do we need to improve on to create our future success. Then take that conversation, and whether it's you, whether it's someone else on the team, you take that conversation, take the things that you documented, go back and spend a day or two. Write your vision for each of those pillars of success. What does our future culture 3 years from now look like? What is our for our people? What does the success look like for our people 3 years from now? And so you're crafting that vision for each one of those pillars. The next step, you're building commitment. You're validating it. Do people want to be part of this? Do they see their better future? So then you bring the team back together. Pull up your culture vision statement. Read through it. Is this who you want to be 3 years from now? Are you excited about it? Do you want to be part of this journey? Then you go to the people side. Is this what we described as future success? Again, we're doing a lot of things right, but here's the opportunities to improve. Get out of where we are today, but where do we want to be in the future? And then move to the client side or the customer side, and then move to the growth side. So what you're doing is, here's our vision 3 years from now. And then here is our alignment. Do you agree? Do you have questions? Do you have concerns? Do you have recommended changes? And you're building collaboration on your future vision and getting the leadership team on board. That is the time. If someone has concerns, encourage it then. That's the time for that kind of dialogue about what your vision is of where you want to be down the road. Best practice number three, work backwards. You have your vision now. You spent the time to do it. You spent a couple days crafting your vision in each of those four buckets. Now work backwards. We have the vision. Over the next 12 to 18 months, what are the strategic initiatives that we know we have to implement that will move us closer to that vision? The slide says five strategic initiatives. I would highly recommend do not go over that. But maybe if you haven't done this before or you're seeing minimal progress, fine tune and focus on two or three things you can make progress in. And what you're doing is you're identifying here are the strategic initiatives over the next 12 to 18 months that will move us closer to that vision. I would highly encourage once you have the 12 to 18 months of those strategic objectives, start working backwards depending on where you're at in that journey, whether it's monthly, maybe it's bi-monthly, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's on a trimester basis, but then work backwards and start setting what I will call micro goals. What are the small steps that will help you accomplish something big over a period of time? What happens is those micro steps or those micro goals, here are the little things that we need to do over the next month or 2 months to help move us closer. What that does is it creates accountability. It also creates a sense of urgency. So if you do this and it's like we have this annual plan, you don't have that sense of urgency. Next thing you know, November rolls around and you're like, what have we actually done with this? So this creates that ongoing focus, ongoing accountability, ongoing progress. Remember that action creates clarity. The small steps equal something big. And then if you do it monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever you decide from a frequency standpoint, I would encourage you updates on what progress have we made, what's holding us back, what do you need from me to help support you. Keep it concise. What's working? What's not working? What do you need from me to help drive future progress? It's a very healthy discussion to keep that progress going. Number four, understand your team dynamics. I have yet to meet an organization or work with an organization that says we're going through this vision and strategic planning process to make our team worse. It does not happen. That's not the case. They don't take on any strategic planning initiative, announce it to their team and say, this is going to be horrible. That's just not the approach. And not only that, usually it's, foundationally good. The idea is good. It's to create a better future. Usually the process behind it is pretty solid. It's pretty strong. Where the biggest challenge comes in is on the people side. Not everyone likes change. Not everyone wants to change. Some people are really happy with where they're at. Maybe they're in their comfort zone. They like the way things are working. And so they don't want to change. They don't want to put in that extra effort. So understanding the team dynamics will help you understand the people side of it, the change piece of it. And I call this the law of the thirds. It's not always the law of the thirds, but it's usually somewhere close to that. I put the people side typically in three buckets. As I talk through this, you may be thinking about some of the team members, maybe even you're playing one of these roles. But the rowers, the change agents, the rowers are the people that see the change. They're excited about it. They want to be part of it. They're raising their hand. They're grabbing an oar. They're starting to paddle the boat forward. Those are the people that are going to drive change within the organization. And then you have your throwers, your anchors. They're in the back of the boat, tossing out the anchor to slow it down. That could be kind of two ways, intentionally or unintentionally. So there's kind of two sides to this. If it's intentionally being an anchor, I don't know. I don't have much tolerance for that. Those are what we call like passive resistance. So, yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to smile and shake my head and say, yeah, I'm part of it. But then after the meeting, I have the closed door meeting with someone else, and then go to happy hour later and have another conversation and just talk about, I can't believe why we made this decision. It's never going to work. And they're intentionally trying to derail progress. I don't have a lot of patience for that, I guess, but sometimes people are just naturally wired to be a little more pessimistic or looking to find ways things will fail. I mean, you look at even our profession, auditors, or tax, we're trained to find for reason, problems or why things won't work. So some people just naturally tend to lean that way. It's kind of their superpower. I'll talk about how to leverage that superpower later. The third is the sitters. They are supported but not committed. They'll shake their head yes, and that sounds great. I love what we're doing. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. I'm not committed to investing my own blood, sweat, and tears and my own risk to get involved with it. We hope it works, but we're not necessarily going to help move the needle forward. So those are typically the three buckets. And from a communication plan on the front end, before you're ever going down the road, start with your benefits barriers assessment. If we have this strategic initiative, something that we are wanting to change within our organization, start with the benefits. What could possibly go right? What's the outcome? How is it going to create a better future for our people, our culture, our clients, our communities? How is this going to end with a positive result? That helps you start crafting the story of the business case of why we are moving this direction. The barriers assessment. That's where what could possibly go wrong. I would much rather see a team have an open and honest dialogue, challenge the status quo, raise their concerns on the front end. That barriers assessment, you're trying to uncover that as early on as possible, so you don't spend 8 months trying to implement something. You get down the road and you realize that half the team wasn't invested in it. So that helps do that on the front end. And then the open and honest dialogue. I mentioned artificial harmony. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, fall in like the nice side of like, I care about my people a lot and I want them to be successful, but I care so much I don't want to hurt feelings. We're not doing anyone any favors without being open and honest. I'm a big fan of the book Kim Scott Radical Candor of how can we challenge people directly when we care about them. And so we owe it to our people to be open and honest. It is nearly impossible to improve without setting the stage for open and honest dialogue. It's not a personal attack or criticism. It is just open dialogue about how we can get better. And then I mentioned the anchors earlier, those that are just naturally tend to lean more that direction. Use their superpower. Give them a role in the team of here's our idea, here's what we're trying to do, here's the service we're trying to develop, or whatever it may be, and tell them, like, poke holes in it, figure out everything that could possibly go wrong, and come back and report back to us. That way, you're tying them into your vision and your plan of what you're trying to accomplish. Not only that, you're using their superpower, so they're invested and more engaged. And then not only that, you're uncovering those hurdles of our anchors, the people that are not on board. How can we help overcome that whenever we start with the implementation side? And then consistency and frequency. Those are those touch points, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly. Those will help you maintain that momentum and create that sense of urgency. One idea, use a pilot group. I've seen this approached a couple different ways. One, it's like the everyone is going to do this. This is the mandate. We shall move this direction. Which, as you get larger as an organization, sometimes from a governance standpoint, you have to move that direction. Or the other idea is find a pilot group, find your rowers, find the people that love change. It's their superpower. They want to be involved with it. Start with a pilot group, get some early success. And then it's interesting, the sitters or the people that maybe are not fully on board, they start to see the success. They hear the win stories, they hear the positive momentum, and then all of a sudden it changes. It's like, well, they're seeing success. I would love to be part of that. And that kind of mindset creates that culture of change. Embrace it, focus on those that want to be part of it. Not only that, back to our culture of busyness, take the time to celebrate your wins, celebrate progress, talk about it, foster that positive mindset. Yes, it was hard, but yes, we did it. We accomplished it. And with change, back to the people side, where we most often see like the strategic plans fail from the people side is that negativity, or we have this great plan, we're excited about it, we've talked a lot about it, now we're a few months in and all of a sudden things aren't going exactly the way that we wanted it actually got worse. We call that the swamp of despair. We've kind of hit rock bottom. That is usually when things start to get better. So that is why I encourage you from a positive mindset. Yes, things are hard, but with the right mindset and the right culture, we can get through those challenging times. And it creates that sense of positive momentum. And it's attractive when we go through those hard times, those shared experiences, and we feel victory on the back end. More people want to be part of that, and it's very, very rewarding. Best practice number 7. Before I jump into this one, I want to share a resource with the group, and maybe we can chat some of these in here in just a minute so you have them to refer back to. The one book I would highly recommend is Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. It's a very good book. Not only a good book, his whole planning methodology is very impactful. He has planners called the Full Focus Planner, and several years ago, I felt, that sense of busyness or that overwhelm or that constant fire drill mode. And I read the book twice and I thought to myself, like, this all sounds wonderful, but there's no way in real life application will it actually work. I blamed my firm, I blamed culture, I blamed other people, not myself. And then as I got into it and decided to actually start using his planner, it took me a good, I'd say, 6 or 7 months before I felt like I wasn't doing something wrong. What I realized, it wasn't anyone else, it was the own habits that I had created. And in his book, he calls it the hustle fallacy. The more I work, the more hours I work, the more I get done, the more productive I'll be, the more successful I'll be. He kind of rewires that mindset with the intentionality of our time and our focus and our energy. And so there is no way we can cover all of that in the next 15 minutes. But one of the key takeaways was this practice of the big three. So part of that planning process, you have your quarterly big three, your monthly big three, and your weekly big three, then your daily big three. So those are your three rock kind of goals that you want to accomplish in that timeline. And the most impactful part I've seen with just my own interactions are my daily big three. It is real easy for a day to go by rather quickly. And so I write down every day my big three of what I'm trying to accomplish. I would be lying to you if I said I got through those each and every day. But what it does is it brings much more intentionality to the main things, the quadrant two type work that I want to get done. And by the way, it's not just work related. I actually incorporate like life work better because it's our work is one pillar of our life. And so sometimes on those daily big three, I'll include life goals. If I'm traveling a lot and then I'm home, I want to take my kids to school or I want to pick them up from school. That's sometimes my big three. If I'm big on like staying active. So if I felt like I haven't had a chance to work out or be active, that'll be one of my daily big three because I know I will make it a priority. And when it comes to the strategic planning process, I would encourage you either individually or as a team, have your quarterly big three, your monthly, your weekly, your daily. And then not only that, but owning your calendar. Schedule focus time on your calendar. If you don't schedule it and you don't own it, it will not happen. It'll be too easy to fall back to your old habits. And so own and honor that time. I know it sounds easy. It's easier said than done, but you start creating that habit of that focus time to focus in that quadrant two of what's going to create our future success, not just our daily or weekly success for this year, but what's going to create our future success. Number 8, lead with purpose and celebrate progress. I don't know if each of your organizations have like annual goal setting or anything like that, but after you roll out a vision and a strategic plan and you communicate that throughout the organization, I would highly recommend um, having at least each individual have a goal tied to one of your strategic objectives. And then they start to see a line of sight of how do my daily activities impact the bigger picture. That adds purpose, that adds impact, that adds value to the work that they're doing. And if you do like evaluations or coaching or however you may approach it in your organization, structure some of those evaluations and coaching around your vision, your cultural values, and your strategic plan. If they have a goal tied to it, not just individual success, but overall team or organization success, back to giving them a sense of purpose, and then reward the right actions, the right people doing the right things, celebrate it, and also understand what I'm talking about. I would be lying if I said it was easy. It's not easy. Change is hard. A strategic plan is hard. Keeping a culture alive is hard. But knowing when you look back on your career, say you fast forward to when you retire, when you look back, some of those challenging times are going to be some of the most rewarding times. When you come together with other people and you do something special, those will be some of the most impactful and most memorable moments of that career journey. And then number 9, then we'll get into our last polling question, is use this mindset, this approach. Action creates clarity. I've made the mistake. I've watched others make the mistake. We will plan, we will plan, we will plan. We want the perfect plan. Everything should be laid out over the next 12 months. It's going to work great. There is no such thing as a perfect plan. I'm not giving you the excuse to say not don't have a plan. I'm not saying that. You should have a plan. Um, but don't wait on it to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Action will create clarity. Use this process. Test, learn, refine, repeat. Test, learn, refine, repeat. That focuses on progress. When you're taking action, it gives you insight into the next step. So if this is something new that you're trying as part of your strategic plan, break it off in 90-day increments or bi-monthly. And you're testing what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change to pivot. And then if you find something that you started with good intent and it's just simply not working, and you're 7 or 8 or 9 months in, you can also learn to fail fast. If it's not working and you know it's not going to, fail fast, move on to the next thing. So this puts you in that state of continued progress. Our polling question number 4: what is your greatest vision and strategic plan opportunity? Sorry, I'm going to go on mute for a second and then love to see the responses. Create a process to develop the vision and strategic plan. Sounds like many of you are already moving that direction. The capacity side, create the capacity to work on the organization, create accountability and goals to ensure progress, create or revise your communication plan. Not applicable. All right. Here in just a second, we will have time for Q&A, so please feel free to chat those in. I will knock out any questions that I have time for. If not, I promise that I will follow up with you. We are nearing the end of our time, so I want to leave you with just a couple thoughts, and then we will get to the questions side. All right. Next steps, consideration. It seemed like many of you are moving that direction, seeing some progress, but determine what are the priorities for your team or your organization right now, and then what needs to be done long term. Is it stepping back and creating a shared vision and strategic plan, or do we have one and we need to step back and revise it based on something we heard or what we learned today? Is it bringing the vision and strategic plan to life? Yes, we have one. But maybe we haven't seen a lot of progress. So maybe it's doubling down, reinvesting what has worked, what hasn't. How can we bring that to life? Or for many of you, maybe you're doing a really great job. What are we doing to keep our team's vision and strategic plan alive? Again, that takes intentionality and ongoing focus. It happens each and every day that we show up. So we can't lose sight of that, or we could start to lose progress. And then my final comment, another leader that I think very highly of. I just think I have a high level of respect. She's someone I've had the chance to interact with the past 6 years. I've heard her speak several times, and she shared this idea about self-leadership. She was talking about a decision she made as a CEO, and she went to implement it, and it did not go well. It was not well received by the other owners. And she said she had to step back and self-reflect. It was a pretty hard period in her journey as the CEO. And she said, as leaders of ourselves, we must step back and think about if something is not going the way that we want it to, or we don't like where we're at, we have to ask, what have I done to contribute to the situation? More importantly, what can I do to fix it? I mentioned in like the negative cultures, many times we fall back on blaming complaints of what someone else did that caused it not to work, and blaming complaints creates more problems. Instead, this is the self-accountability and the self-ownership. If it's not going how we want it to, what have I done to contribute, and what can I do to help fix the problem? So I will leave you with that thought. I'll share my email address here in just a second if you do want me to be that accountability partner. But questions I have for you. I would love to hear a top takeaway from today's session, or if you do have any questions that I could help with, please feel free to chat those in. Um, so there were a few questions of, do you have any specific examples of strategic initiatives? Again, they usually go back to one of those 4 buckets: culture, people, clients, customers, or growth. Some examples. There's a lot of M&A activity going on, or succession planning. So helping organizations figure out their bench strength. What does the next generation of leaders look like? Do we have a solid bench? What do we need to do to invest and build them up to be the next generation of leaders? Do we need coaching involved with that? Do we need some sort of goal setting process? So those are a couple examples. Some of the others of like tied to evaluations, compensation models. Are there other ways? Um, from a compensation standpoint to reward the right behaviors in our organization? Or like with M&A activity, who do we want to be? Do we want to look at merging into a different organization, or do we want to look to acquire other organizations? Culture is a big one. We've had some culture drift. How can you help us get back on track with our culture? So those are just some of the examples. That I've seen and had the opportunity to work with organizations with. And top takeaway, I said these would be confidential, but I almost said your name, so apologize for that. Top takeaway, create a plan to move my team forward and communicate the plan. Absolutely. Love it. One other one, the books. Could you share the books you referenced? I believe there were four. Thank you, Brady, for just chatting those in. Good timing. Power Positive Teams, John Gordon. Free to Focus, Michael Hyatt. Leading with Significance, Joey Havens. I think I had one bonus, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. That's also a very good book. Um, one last one. How do you address negativity or those that are against change? Gosh, that's probably a whole nother hour webinar topic, but in the short time that we have, this is part of John Gordon's approach of you confront it, transform it, or remove it. So sometimes people have blind spots. They don't even know that they're being that way or dragging the team down. So seek to understand first. Maybe something happened. Maybe something happened to cause that. Most people don't want to be negative on purpose. It's just something has happened that has impacted them. And so seek to understand. When you seek to understand, don't try to solve the problem yet. You're just trying to learn like where they're coming from and what's driving that. And then whenever you understand, you can help transform it. You can help give coaching. If again, back to we're naturally wired to think negatively, one of the things that helped me kind of rewire my thought process, if they're constantly going to, here is every reason why something's not going to work, it's going to fail, have them write down what could truly come out of it. And one of the quotes out of the book that has just stuck with me is, if we know the future hasn't happened yet, why would we tend to focus on everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right? And that's just a change in mindset of, yes, things can be hard, but why would I not want to focus on positive outcomes instead of doom and gloom? That just creates a more positive environment within your team culture. I did see one other comment: what you permit, you promote. Great seminar, Heath. Thank you. I appreciate the positive feedback. Here is my email address if you would like for an accountability partner. If you have any other questions, Heath Alloway, growth partner, halloway at soren.com. Thank you all so much for your time. Again, I know you have plenty going on, so that is not something I take lightly. I hope each and every one of you got some impactful ideas to take back to your teams and your organizations. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I hope our paths cross soon. Take care.